Hello everybody, welcome back to the collective. My name is Salvador, and this is King Gizard and the Lizard Wizard Flight b741, and let me tell you why this album is pretty good. So, this is King Gizzard's, I believe, 26th album in about 10 years, already amazing in of itself, legendary, rock band of many styles, of your jazz fusion rock and your progressive rock and your garage rock and etc, etc, etc. This new one, they're playing around with a lot of like classic rock, kind of bluesy, um, bit country at very little specific times earlier on, very 70s ish sound. And although not every song on the album is I like or is necessarily amazing, it's still a really good album because you see King Gizzard, well, any band, right? You have a band's sound, and you have a band's DNA, and you have, of course, the genre they play, right? So let's say King Gizzard, genre-wise, they play a lot of different subgenres of rock and even metal sometimes. In terms of their sound, I'd say the King Gizzard, sound is kind of what they're doing with, like Mind Fuzz and Nonagon and Polygon Wonderland, Microtonal Banana, all that kind of era, right? Garage rock with kind of psych rock and psychedelic, or psych rock and progressive rock, just the keys they would be in, and all that kind of stuff. That's like their sound, right? Their DNA is a lot of things like, how the guitars tune, what does the vocalist sound like, what keys do they tend to favor if they lean certain ways, like Tool's always usually in D, and certain bands favor certain keys, sometimes, like Radiohead, it's very sad, like, how it's mixed, how just other identifying features of their core sound, right? With King Gizzard, you have this lo-fi production, you have the distorted harmonicas, you have the voices of Stu and the other vocalists, and that's kind of their DNA, and you can apply this to different styles as they do with different styles of rock, and you can have sometimes different sounds, like again with the Tool analogy, right? Um, something like Lateralis and something like Fear Inoculum sound very differently sound wise, but the Tool's DNA is still there. Let's say Dream Theater, with something like, Octavarium and what's the Dream Scenes from Memory, Metropolis Part 2, and again, very different, but it sounds like Dream Theater. You know what I mean? That DNA is still there. You know what I mean? And I explain this to say, again, even though the album might not be perfect, this is probably by far the style of music that they've played that has fit their DNA the best. Because, like I said, one of the bigger things about King Gizzard is that the production is very lo-fi, and a lot of this 70s rock that they're taking inspiration from was lo-fi at the time. That's just how it was, you know what I mean? And the drums might not be tuned the same, they might not be engineered and recorded the same way as drums back then. That's not one of those things. I know King Gizzard drums when I hear them based on how they're mixed. I feel that's another part of their DNA. You know what I mean? The lo-fi production, the harmonicas, distorted harmonicas to be specific, how the drums are mixed, the vocalists, all that kind of stuff, right? And yeah, it's just it surprised me how much it fit, and then it made me think, how have they not done this style of rock like way sooner? They've gotten close, like Paper Mache Balloon, that was more of a kind of a folky, like MTV Unplugged kind of almost jazzy album, and 12 Bar Bruise is more of like a garage rock punky kind of thing, but like this specific era of rock really fits well for them, and I actually really hope they do more of this. The first half of the album is kind of more loose jam bandy kind of stuff, like their last couple albums with, let's say, like Ice, Death, Planets, Mushrooms, Lava. Yeah, that's what it is. And Lemonade, Denim, changes, minus bits of Pentadragonic Apocalypse, for the most part, the recent stuff has been very jam improv heavy, like a lot of jazz is. And the first half of this album is like that, songs like Mirage City and Antarctica and all of these other ones, right? And the last half of the album is more structured music, like the Risque, Flight B741, the title track, you know, um, Daily Blues. There's some bits here and there that kind of, break that rule. Like Field of Vision is a bit more of a structured song, for example. Um, Overall, all these songs have so many moving parts to them, and so many little parts of these songs that they're always changing, always adding something else. There's a lot of dips and valleys in a lot of these songs as well. Where you think they're over and they're not, and they fake out again with like a second almost fade out, cool down. It comes in with another part. There's so many moving parts and so many added details in this album. For better or for worse, a lot of these songs feel longer than they are, because most of these songs 5 minutes, 4 minutes, around that, right? And they feel longer than that, because that's what tends to happen when you have a lot of small parts in a song. It tends to feel longer. Songs that tend to feel shorter don't have a lot of moving parts going on. Songs that sometimes, if you have a song that's doing a one thing and it's very slow or fast for a very long or short time, that can also influence how it feels time-wise. But overall, some of the songs, I wish were, a little longer, but not by much. So, but most of them I feel are just right. Like Flight B741, title track again. I think it's the perfect length. Nothing stays really too long, all that kind of stuff. But certain other songs, I feel like stay their welcome a bit longer than they could. Highlight the title track is definitely a highlight. It's much more of a groovier song. Much more one of those structured songs, and a lot of the structured songs tend to be the for me the highlights. Field of Vision and Sad Pilot are also really good. The first half I didn't quite like too much. Not that it's bad. I just personally, I didn't like it that much. When you have improv music and jam bandy kind of stuff, you're not just going to a room and you're playing. That's not how it works. You go into a room and you decide what key you're gonna be in, what time signature you're gonna be in. Are we gonna change it at some point? Are we gonna do 16 bars of this and 32 of this? There's still rules you lay down and you follow said rules. So what happens with music in general, right? Melodies is what has a staying power, and melodies come from good rhythms, which is basically what every piece of any song that you can say is good, any music that is deemed as good, is because it has a defining rhythm. Rhythm is the key to music that stays with you, right? So if they're the building blocks for some of these improv songs, right? If they're just building blocks, if those just aren't hitting, then the rest of the song isn't gonna hit. It's kind of like that saying where you can polish a turd, but it's still a turd. Same kind of thing. Again, not that they're bad, just more so that they're building off of something that for me doesn't work, so the rest of the song is not gonna work. It's one of those things where from the jump if it's gonna work or not. Like Mirage City is the only one actually that I liked, and I didn't like it a lot. Maybe if I listened to it a couple more times, it would kind of stick with me. But for the most part, it was good. I liked it. Kept my attention. The other songs like Antarctica, Raw Feel, just the other songs on this first half, like Hog Calling Contest, all these ones, right? Where they're a bit more, improv-y again. I can at least say they weren't boring. They kept my attention. I didn't really feel like I was sitting there bored out of my mind waiting for something to happen. They still were groovy, entertaining, and very fun. This whole album's pretty fun. Even again, on Hog Calling Contest, there's a lot of animal noises they kind of threw in there. Same with the very end of Daily Blues, the final track. It's a very fun, groovy, album. And again, this really pairs well with the groovy 70s rock, the slight blues and country elements that they're kind of imbuing into here. And again, like the harmonicas on here, it's perfect. Like King Gizzard always had harmonicas, at least very early on they did, and they've made their appearance on I don't know about every album, but like a lot of them. When you think about King Gizzard and their sound, like Nonagon and Mindfuzz, they're using harmonicas, albeit distorted. Which again, I haven't heard anyone else do distort harmonicas. Maybe it's just me, but like again, like it fits perfectly with the stuff because they actually use harmonicas in a lot of music back then in these genres that we don't see anywhere else. I can't think of another genre at all, that uses harmonicas. Um, so again, the fact that King Gizzard has not done a album in this style before really baffles me. And again, I really hope they do more of this because it really works. I feel like if King Gizzard came out in like the 70s or like late 60s or so, right, they'd be massive. Like this, especially for the time, like this not only fits right in, but again, it's a little progressive. Like I said, there's so many moving parts in this, and a lot of the songs back then, I think of New Mother Nature by Guess Who and just other stuff like that, right? It was pretty simple. You might have like a you know a second part of the song like that song has, where you have your verse chorus, then a different verse chorus, like a two-part thing. But like even still, that was a maybe, and that was about as far as it could go. I know other stuff existed around that time, like jazz fusion stuff, like Magic New Orchestra, but in this realm of like the bluesy rock kind of stuff, you didn't have a lot of. It didn't get too progressive. It didn't get too experimental, right? Um, but yeah, like I think the opener's a good opener. I think the closer Daily Blues is alright. It started feeling much more like a finale piece than how it ended. I like the detail where you hear the pig noises and the plane flying away as the album ended. That was pretty cool. Um, the track flow isn't anything really special. A lot of the songs bleed into each other, as King Gizz tends to do all the time, like Mind Fuzz and things. It's one of their, more defining traits as their DNA. Um, but besides the songs bleeding to one to another, there's not really like a expertly pulled off like push and pull. It's just they transition one to another. Sometimes you might have a song that comes in a bit too heavy, or a bit too not heavy, but a bit too forceful. Maybe it's a big tempo change or whatever it may be. Sometimes it might just kind of dip down a little bit in the other direction, but overall, nothing was really too drastic of a change, so it was okay. If I had to be really nitpicky, there's part in Antarctica where the instrumental, they're playing a part, and rather than just kind of play the instruments, have a rest, and then come back in all at once, they cut the audio, and that comes back in all at once. It's not the vocals; it's the instrumental behind the vocals, and it doesn't sound good to me. Like in headphones, you notice it way more. It kind of jumps out at you. In speakers, it's probably not that big of a deal. Maybe it is. I don't know. Um, but you could just not cut the audio. I know how to, people do it all the time where they're play, pause, boom, like that. That has an impact already. You don't need to cut the audio to have it make an impact. It just kind of it makes it jump out in like a bad way, not in a good way, because it feels like it's broken. It's jarring. It's not like impactful. It's jarring. That's a nitpick. And again, that's more of a production thing than a music, talent, band, everything else thing. But all in all, like I only got I only liked like 4 songs off of it, like 4 or 5 out of the 10 that are on here. But again, like it's still a really good album. I'd still give it like a 7, probably a 7, maybe 6, but I'd say 7. 6 is me like really honing in on that negativity. I'd say it's at least a 7. You know what I mean? As usual, King Gizz doesn't really have any bad albums, but there is a kind of a hierarchy. Like Nonagon is pretty much at the top. Um, certain albums might be a bit lower, like let's say Sketches of Brunswick East, but and like Murder of the Universe, but there still is like a hierarchy. I don't think they really have an album that's like below a 6 or a 7. Like they're all at least good. You know, I don't think I'd describe one as decent. Maybe Murder of the Universe. I don't know. And this album, I'd say, um, would go up like probably like maybe not S tier, but like A tier for sure. Cause let's say again, I didn't like a lot of the first half, and you know I didn't like a lot of the first half, but I can see there being people out there who really do. Cause again, it's a fun vibe. It's great. It's enjoyable. And for people who care a little less about um, catchy melodies and just want like the general vibe of a song, you might really like the first half of this album. You might like the whole thing, and especially the first half, or especially the second half. Point is that it's just me. I personally don't like the more loose stuff. I like it when it's done well. Well, again, not done. It is done well. They just didn't build off of things that connected with me as a human being personally. But when they do, it works. I like Mirage City. I really love Iron Lung from Ice, Planets, Mushrooms, Death, and Lava, whatever it's called. Um, I love Dripping Tap. But it was just they have to build off of a pattern that I vibe with as a human being. Um, I'm still personally waiting for an album that's as good as Nonagon. I think that's everyone's favorite, but I feel like I've been waiting a long time for a King Gizz album that's blow me away and like really stick with me. I haven't had any of their albums just stick with me, at least not overall. I had certain songs, like I've said, like I love Iron Lung, for example. I play that every once in a while still. I can see me playing Flight B741, the title track, a lot too. I have actually for the past, couple weeks, because it was the first single, I've had the time to do that. But I haven't had a full album from them really stick with me since Nonagon. I haven't listened to every album in full yet either. I think I've listened to like at least a song or so off of all of them. But even still, like I'm still waiting for the next album to really blow me away from them. And I feel like if they take this more, if they take the approach of songs, like the title track, like Le Risque, like Sad Pilot, where there are these more structured songs in this 70s rock setting, I feel like that would really, really be a contender, a good recipe for one of their best albums. Period. Like, full stop. But yeah, I'm feeling a 7 out of 10. That's it. That's all I got to say, pretty much. And I said a lot, surprisingly. Yeah. If you want to subscribe, then subscribe. If you want to like, then like. If you want to dislike, then dislike. You can be honest with yourself. Be honest with me. Be honest with everybody. I try and cover music here that most people don't cover. You know what I mean? Like, most people, in fact, pretty much all reviewers and critics cover currently releasing music and mainstream artists. I try and cover genres and artists and bands that, for whatever reason people don't talk about. Maybe it's got a weird stigma. Maybe it's just a genre that's really underground. Who knows? So if you want to listen, if you want to come across some new music, if you want to just open your mind a bit, then sure, subscribe, check out my other videos. I'm even starting this new series where I don't really review an album or react to an album, but I actually deep dive into like a genre generally. I just did a video on that for Madecore. Interesting to say the least. I also have a reaction to this album on Patreon for free, because it got blocked. Nothing is paid on there. It's just reactions that got blocked, and I put them there so they can be put somewhere. But there's a whole bunch from there's that. There's Pentadronic Apocalypse on there. There's Little Yachty Let's Start Here. There's Pendulum. There's Blow to the Rock. There's a lot of different things on there. So if any of that interests you, feel free to check it out. I also plan to release my own music eventually. may or may not be through this channel, probably through a side channel. I do, however, live stream my practice sessions from this channel. You know, because I'm gonna do everything myself. I'm gonna sing. I'm gonna write the lyrics, write the music. I'm gonna play the pianos and the guitars and the drums, and like I'm doing everything. So I'm doing it all myself. So rather than practice and just waste that time, quote unquote, alone, I live stream every once in a while. So check those out. And that's gonna be it for today. So yeah, thanks for watching.